When was the last time you looked in the mirror and actually recognized the person staring back? Not the version you've built for the world to see, the one that smiles on cue and says all the right things, but the version buried beneath layers of noise, fear, and expectation. Somewhere along the way, you lost sight of that person. You traded who you are for who you thought you needed to be. And the strangest part? You didn't even notice it happening. It begins subtly. The world rewards you for fitting in, for being agreeable, for chasing comfort instead of truth. You tell yourself you're being smart, responsible, practical. You surround yourself with people who tell you you're doing great, that this is what success looks like. But late at night, when the noise fades, something inside you feels off. You can't name it, but it's there. A quiet ache, like a whisper you've been trying to ignore. That whisper is your real self, suffocating inside a life that looks good on paper but feels hollow in your chest. We've been taught to worship comfort, to make everything easy, predictable, and safe. But safety is the slowest kind of death. Comfort convinces you that stillness is peace, when really it's paralysis. You stop taking risks. You stop asking questions. You stop growing. And the more you stay there, the smaller you become. Your dreams shrink to fit your surroundings. Your fire dims just enough to keep others comfortable. Until one day, you wake up and realize you've built a life that no longer fits the person you are, or the person you were meant to become. It's strange, isn't it? We crave purpose, yet we build walls to protect ourselves from the very discomfort that could give us meaning. We say we want freedom, but most people wouldn't recognize it if it stood right in front of them, because freedom doesn't feel safe. It feels uncertain, messy, alive. It asks you to let go of control, to face everything you've been avoiding, the failures, the doubts, the quiet truth that maybe you've been living someone else's dream instead of your own. But here's what most people never understand. The discomfort you fear is not your enemy. It's the invitation, the breaking open before the becoming, the pressure that cracks the surface so the real you can breathe again. Every moment of uncertainty, every time you feel lost or restless, it's your soul trying to wake you up, trying to remind you that you were never meant to stay in the shallow end of life, pretending to be content, while something deeper inside you screams for more. The world will tell you that staying comfortable is smart, that risk is reckless, that stability is success. But that's a lie built to keep you predictable. The truth is, your greatest growth will never come from what's easy. It comes from the moments that scare you, the choices that stretch you, the paths that force you to evolve. Every person you admire didn't rise because life handed them comfort. They rose because they stepped into the unknown and refused to turn back. And maybe that's why you're here, listening to this right now, because a part of you knows you've been asleep, you've been going through the motions, saying yes when your heart was screaming no, settling for what you've been told you should want. But something inside you is shifting. You're starting to feel it, the quiet rebellion building beneath your skin, the hunger for something real, the desire to stop surviving and start living. You don't have to have all the answers yet. You just need to stop pretending that the cage you built for yourself is freedom. Stop mistaking comfort for peace. Start remembering what it feels like to be fully alive. To want something so deeply it scares you, to chase it anyway, to fall, to rise, to feel. Because life isn't waiting for you to be ready, it's waiting for you to be honest. The truth is, the world doesn't destroy your true self overnight. It happens one compromise at a time, one small surrender after another, until you forget there was ever another way to live. But the moment you start questioning it, the moment you feel that pull in your gut telling you there's more, that's the moment everything changes. Because awareness is the first spark of freedom, and once that spark catches, no amount of comfort can put it out. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're just waking up. And the world is terrified of people who wake up, because they can't be controlled, they don't seek permission, they stop living by default and start living by design. So if you feel lost right now, good. It means the old version of you is falling apart. And beneath the rubble, your real self is waiting, patiently, powerfully, to rise. You've spent years trying to fit into a world that rewards imitation. You've learned to hide the parts of yourself that felt too strange, too raw, too different. Every time you silenced your truth just to be accepted, a small piece of you faded away, and now you walk around carrying a version of yourself that doesn't even feel like you anymore. You've become an echo of what others wanted, trapped trapped inside expectations that were never yours to begin with. But deep down, you know something's wrong. You can feel it in the quiet moments, the disconnection, the ache, the sense that no matter how much you achieve, something is still missing. That missing piece is you. The world has convinced you that identity is something to be built from the outside in, through status, validation, approval. But those things only create noise, and in that noise, you lose the sound of your own soul. Every scroll, every comparison, every moment you measure your worth against someone else's life. It steals your presence. It steals your power, because comparison is the fastest way to forget your own path. You start chasing what isn't yours, mimicking someone else's journey, hoping it will make you feel whole. But it never does. It only deepens the void. And that's how the trap tightens. You become addicted to validation, addicted to being seen, instead of being understood. You build an identity around applause, around the illusion of progress, around what looks successful to others. But attention is not love. Approval is not peace. You can have the world's eyes on you and still feel invisible, because the true self cannot live in the shadow of performance. It withers there. It waits for the moment you're brave enough to stop pretending and start remembering. But the remembering isn't easy. It requires you to unlearn everything you've been taught to worship: productivity, perfection, popularity. You've been told these are the signs of value, but they're just distractions. They keep you chasing, never arriving. The system was built to keep you tired, comparing, doubting, because a person who knows their worth cannot be controlled. The moment you stop measuring yourself by someone else's standards, the world loses its grip on you. That's why waking up feels like rebellion, because it is, and it's terrifying at first. When you stop chasing, the silence rushes in, the noise fades, and suddenly, it's just you, facing the parts you've ignored for years, the fears, the disappointments, the truths that make you uncomfortable. Most people run from that silence. They drown it out with busyness, with distractions, with endless noise. But silence is where transformation begins. It's where you see who you've become, and who you still are beneath it all. It's where you realize that the world didn't steal your true self. You handed it over, piece by piece, every time you chose approval over authenticity. But the moment you see that truth, something changes. You can't go back. You can't keep pretending. You don't hear the voice calling you back to yourself. The one that says, enough, enough shrinking, enough performing, enough living like your life belongs to everyone but you. That voice is your compass. It's what's real. And when you finally follow it, the world will resist. People will question you, doubt you, maybe even leave you, but that's how you'll know you're getting closer. Because growth always threatens the comfort of those still asleep. You are not here to blend in. You are here to wake up, to peel back the layers of noise and remember what it feels like to be whole, to speak truth even when your voice shakes, to live with presence instead of pretending. And no one can do it for you. No one can hand you your purpose. You find it in the moments when you stop running from yourself and start listening. That's where power lives. That's where freedom begins. The world will keep trying to pull you back into its rhythm, to make you numb, distracted, obedient. But if you're still watching this, it means something in you refuses to go back to sleep. It means you're ready, ready to feel again, ready to see through the illusions, ready to reclaim what's always been yours. You were never meant to just exist. You were meant to be, to live as the full, unapologetic expression of your soul. The journey back to yourself isn't easy, but it's the only one that's real. And when you finally arrive, you'll see that everything you were searching for has been waiting inside you all along. You've been taught to live your life chasing approval, but no one told you what happens when you finally get it. When you have the job, the image, the validation, and still feel like something inside you is quietly dying. You smile for the world, but inside there's a voice that won't stay silent anymore. It keeps asking, is this it? You try to push it down, distract yourself, stay busy. But deep down you know that voice is right. Because the life you're living isn't yours. It's a script you were handed. And every day you play that role, the real you fades a little more. That's the cost of living by expectations. They dress it up as success, but really it's submission. You follow rules that don't make sense, chase goals that don't belong to you, say yes when every part of you is screaming no. You start believing that worth comes from productivity, that love must be earned, that peace is a reward waiting at the end of burnout. But those are lies, powerful ones, repeated until they sound like truth. The world has trained you to confuse being busy with being alive, and yet, when everything gets quiet, that's when the truth hits hardest. You're exhausted, not fulfilled. You're existing, not living. You weren't created to chase. You were meant to move from a place of knowing, but knowing yourself is dangerous in a world built on distraction. Because the moment you remember who you are, the system loses control over you. You stop reacting, you stop consuming, you stop needing validation to breathe. And that's terrifying to a world that profits from your confusion. That's why it keeps you overwhelmed, scrolling, comparing, always reaching for something just out of reach, because if you ever stood still long enough to see your own power, everything they told you to be afraid of would lose its grip. But the truth is, the power has always been there. Beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath every mask you've ever worn, it's the calm you feel before you make a decision that scares you but feels right. It's the pulse that rises when you imagine a life that actually feels true. You've glimpsed it before, that spark, that clarity, that sense that you were made for more. But each time it appeared, fear took over. Fear told you to wait, to play safe, to listen to others instead of yourself. And every time you listened, you built another wall around your own soul. But walls don't keep you safe. They keep you small. They keep you repeating cycles. You were meant to break. You start mistaking survival for stability, numbness for peace. You tell yourself that someday you'll take the risk, that someday you'll start living differently. But someday is a trap, because every day you delay, your true self drifts further out of reach, and one day, if you're not careful, you'll wake up and realize you spent your whole life trying to be accepted by people who never really saw you. There comes a moment when you have to stop negotiating with your potential, stop explaining your dreams to those who've already given up on theirs. Stop apologizing for the fire that still burns in you. That fire is the truth, and it's not here to make you comfortable. It's here to wake you up, to burn down everything that was never real, to show you what's possible when you stop living by fear and start living by choice. The moment you honor that fire, you'll notice something extraordinary. The world around you begins to change, not because it's different, but because you stop trying to fit in where you no longer belong. You stop chasing people who can't meet you where you're going. You stop needing permission to exist. And that's when life starts moving differently. Doors open, opportunities align, peace returns. Because when you live in truth, life rises to meet you. That's not magic, that's alignment. And the more you align with who you really are, the less the illusions can touch you. You've spent enough time running from yourself. Now it's time to return, to step into your own life, fully awake, to take back your energy from everything that drains you, to stop looking for meaning and start living it. Because the real danger isn't losing everything, it's never finding yourself. You are not here to just survive another day. You are here to remember your own power, to walk in truth, and to live a life that feels like freedom. Everything you've ever been searching for is already waiting inside you. All you have to do is finally choose it. You can feel it, the quiet war inside you, the pull between who you are and who the world told you to be. Every day you wake up and fight battles no one sees. The pressure to be perfect, the fear of failing, the exhaustion of carrying a life that doesn't reflect your truth. You smile, you perform, you survive. But underneath, there's a growing tension, a restlessness that refuses to die. It's not weakness. It's your soul rebelling against the lie that this is all there is. That voice inside you isn't trying to ruin your peace. It's trying to save your life. The moment you stop listening to that voice, you begin to disappear. You start accepting things that break you. You justify relationships that drain you. You make peace with mediocrity because you're too afraid to disturb the illusion of stability. But deep down, you know you're meant for more than the comfort of pretending. Every time you silence your truth to make someone else comfortable, you betray yourself. And every time you do, the world grows a little dimmer. Because the world doesn't need another version of what already exists. It needs the version of you that's been hiding, waiting to breathe again. You've been conditioned to chase approval as if it's oxygen, to believe your worth depends on how others see you. But that's the real trap. The more you chase validation, the more you give away your power. You start molding yourself into what you think people want, and in doing so, you lose the very thing that made you powerful in the first place, your authenticity. The truth is, No one can give you validation that lasts, because the moment you depend on others to define you, they own your peace, and people will always project their fears onto you. That's why the only freedom worth fighting for is the freedom from needing to be understood. You don't owe the world your compliance. You owe it your awakening. The second you stop living by fear, you stop playing small. You stop living to be liked and start living to be real. And yes, it will scare you. Growth always does. But that fear you feel when you choose yourself, that's not a warning. That's confirmation. It's your spirit expanding, stretching into the life it was meant to live. The fear will whisper that you'll lose people, that you'll lose comfort, that you'll lose everything you've built. But what's the point of keeping what was never truly yours? What's the point of protecting a life that costs you your soul? You've waited long enough for permission that will never come. No one is going to tell you it's time. No one is going to hand you your freedom. You have to take it. You have to decide that your peace matters more than pleasing others, that your truth matters more than their approval, that your purpose is worth the risk. The moment you make that choice, life begins to rearrange itself around your courage. The right people find you, the right doors open, and suddenly, what once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. But you can't half awaken. You can't keep one foot in the old world and one in the new. Transformation demands everything. It asks you to let go of your old story, your old labels, your old fears. It asks you to face yourself completely, to meet your reflection without judgment, without excuses, without running. And when you do, when you finally see who you are beneath the layers of conditioning, something beautiful happens. You realize you were never broken. You were just buried. You were buried under expectations, under fear, under the weight of trying to be enough. But now, it's time to rise, to burn down everything false, and rebuild your life from truth, to speak, to move, to live with the power of someone who remembers who they are. Because when you remember, you become unstoppable. You stop chasing purpose, you embody it. You stop searching for meaning, you create it. And the world begins to shift, not because it changed, but because you did. You are not here to live a half-life. You are not here to shrink so others can feel comfortable. You are here to wake up, to see through the illusions that kept you asleep for so long. The world will resist your awakening, but that's how you'll know you're on the right path. So let the old fall away, let the noise fade. Stand in your truth, even if your voice trembles. Because once you do, nothing and no one can destroy your true self. You've carried the light within you all along. It's time to let it burn. Most people will live their entire lives never truly meeting themselves. They'll move through the world on autopilot, following routines, obeying expectations, mistaking noise for purpose. They'll wake up every day chasing the next distraction, the next achievement, the next approval, because silence terrifies them. In silence, they would have to face who they've become, and that's the one thing most people can't bear to do. But that's where truth lives. That's where freedom begins. Because the moment you stop running from yourself, the illusion starts to crumble. You've spent years learning how to perform, how to be strong, how to say the right thing, do the right thing, appear in control. But what if all that control has been your prison? What if the thing you've been calling strength has just been a disguise for fear? You've built walls to protect yourself, but those same walls are blocking the light. You're safe, yes, but you're suffocating because safety and aliveness cannot coexist. You can't evolve while clinging to the very things that are holding you back. Growth only begins when you risk the comfort that's been killing you slowly. The mind will do anything to keep you comfortable. It will whisper excuses that sound like logic. It will tell you it's not the right time, that you're not ready, that things will get better if you just wait. But time doesn't heal what you refuse to face. Avoidance doesn't protect you. It delays your awakening. Every moment you spend waiting for the right time is another moment of your life slipping away. The truth is, there will never be a right time. There will only be now. And if you don't decide to act now, fear wins. Fear becomes your master, and you become its obedient follower. But you were never meant to be ruled by fear. You were meant to walk through it, to use it as fuel. Fear is not the enemy, it's the signal. It's the doorway that separates who you've been from who you could be. The discomfort you feel when you move toward truth is proof you're on the right path. Every step beyond fear expands you. Every honest moment strengthens you. Every act of courage brings you closer to your real self. The self that doesn't need validation, that doesn't bend to noise, that doesn't apologize for existing. You know this truth deep down. You felt glimpses of it. The moments when you stopped pretending, when you spoke from your soul, when you acted out of instinct instead of fear. In those moments, you were unstoppable. Time slowed down. Everything felt aligned. That's not an accident. That's who you are beneath the conditioning, beneath the masks, beneath the endless need to prove your worth. You've been chasing a version of peace that can only come from authenticity. And authenticity requires sacrifice. You can't become who you're meant to be while clinging to who you were told to be. There comes a breaking point. A moment when you can't keep living the same lie. When the weight of pretending becomes heavier than the fear of change. And when that moment comes, you have a choice. Continue the performance, or burn it all down and start again. The burn is terrifying, but it's holy. Because in the fire, the false self dies. In the fire, you are reborn. Every truth you've been afraid to face becomes the foundation for your freedom. And once you've seen what's real, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to living half alive. You can't unlearn your power. So stop waiting for someone to save you. Stop waiting for a sign that already lives inside you. You are the sign. You are the permission. You are the proof that transformation is possible. But it starts with a single decision: to stop numbing, to stop hiding, to stop betraying yourself for the illusion of acceptance. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be honest. Honesty is the doorway to liberation, because the moment you speak the truth, even just to yourself, the chains begin to fall, and when they do, you'll realize that nothing outside of you ever had power over you. The world only had as much control as you allowed it. The noise, the expectations, the comparisons, they lose their grip the second you decide to wake up. That's the real revolution. It doesn't start with changing the world. It starts with changing yourself, with reclaiming your energy, your focus, your presence, with choosing to live as if your life actually matters. Because it does. The world needs you awake, not compliant. It needs your voice, your fire, your truth. Because when one person wakes up, it reminds everyone else that they can too.